good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life you absolutely love. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher. Amy will be joining us after the commercial break as we talk about something you've likely read about, heard about, seen advertised, and you may even be using it. We're going to be getting the scoop on CBD oil. What is it? Is it good for you? Does it work? And who's it for? Remember, health is the first wealth. So stick around and we'll learn about CBD oil together. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email them directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. And if you're stuck in an area of your life, whether it's financially or in your health or in your relationships, get in action and reach out to us. You don't need to suffer. There are answers, there are solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. All right, let's get to today's email. It says, "Dear Fletcher, I'm writing because I'm heartbroken and disappointed and not sure how to proceed. I am about 50 years old and I've heard other parents and grandparents talk about how they feel disconnected with their kids and grandchildren. They don't see them or talk with them as often as they wish they could. And when I heard these stories, I never imagined that I would be the one saying these things. But unfortunately, I am. In our case, we helped raise our grandchild for many of her early years. My husband spent time and money to do so. Or me and my husband spent time and money to do so, but now my son seems to be at a level of success where he doesn't need us, and frankly, we feel forgotten about. It hurts, and I long to spend time with him and his family and my grandchildren, but it seems we're just not a priority. I've reached out, but I get the message that they're always too busy, and it's always let's talk later or schedule something for another day. I don't want to be a pest, but I want to see my family, and I want to spend time with my grandkids. What would you do? Thanks in advance, Joyce." All right. Hey, Joyce. First of all, thanks for reaching out. Strong people ask for help, and that's you. All right, let's get a recap on this. So you say you've helped raise your grandchild when they were young, and you've invested time and money into your relationship with him and them, and now that your son has a successful life, it doesn't seem like he has much time for you. First off, I get that could feel hurtful. And I think about all the times my own mom and family wanted me to come and visit, and I didn't. I too was really busy. I always had a project to do, a production to go to, a game to watch, etc. I had to work. I had a busy life, and my family was a 6-hour drive away. However, I'll never forget when my mom had a very frank conversation with me. She told me that she felt like she is asking me to come home and that she's always the one that has to drive to see me if she wants to see me or her grandchildren. And she wasn't joking either. I would frequently brush off comments like that or make a joke or tease her, but she wasn't having any of that. She was serious, and what made the difference was she was vulnerable. And she wasn't blaming me or trying to guilt me. I remember seeing her newly in that moment. She was open and sharing herself, just sharing how she felt. And I remember realizing in that moment that I was much more important to her than maybe I had ever realized previously. And now my mom has passed on and I'm older. And I get now that she knew something that I didn't. She knew that her days were limited. She had realized long ago that she wasn't immortal. I, on the other hand, was younger, and I thought we would both be around for what seemed like hundreds of years. After that conversation, I changed because of how she spoke to me. And she was authentic and vulnerable. And I actually heard her request probably for the first time. And again, there was no blame. She was just telling me how it was for her. And she was telling me how she was feeling, that she missed me. So Joyce, I want to suggest several things to you. Number one, don't blame or even suggest blame. Don't manipulate or accuse. And if you do, it's equal to driving a massive wedge between you and your son. His ears close and he tunes out as soon as he hears blame or even the hint of blame. It's not that he doesn't love you, it's just that they're caught up in making their life for themselves. They think that they have decades and decades ahead of them, and they may not yet know what you and I know, that our time is limited here, and it seems the older we get, the faster the days go by. Number two, I want you to communicate to him authentically. Like, you can just tell him, I really miss seeing you. I really miss seeing you and the kids. Would there be a time when we could all get together? Could we put something on the schedule? Just ask point blank. Again, no accusation, no blame. And if you can't see them in person, well, get high tech. Go online. There are so many apps where you can hear and see your family. Our girls at home have one set of their grandparents in California, so several states away. And they use FaceTime to chat with them, I think, easily weekly. It's fun for them. They can walk around the house and show them things. We even had our kids on the iPad or iPhone during holiday dinners when they couldn't be with us in person because of school or some other obligation. So yeah, times have changed, and you can too. Don't worry, someone can help you get it all set up if you're not comfortable with it. The setup is easy, and then using it is even easier. You can use it on Facebook or Apple, FaceTime, and a myriad of other options. The fourth thing I want to suggest is you can write to the kids, right? Even though we live in a high-tech world, everyone still loves to get actual physical letters in the mail. It's pretty novel, actually. And so you can encourage the kids to write you back. And the fifth thing I want to suggest is respect their decisions. If you want your kids to listen to you and respect you, then make sure that you're actually listening to them as well. Put yourselves in their shoes. If they don't feel heard and respected, they won't be able to hear you and respect you either. That may feel like impossible, but it is possible. It just takes practice. We're very practiced at not listening to people. It's time to really get present and hear what the other people are saying so you can respond authentically and really get how it is for them. And when they feel heard, then and only then will they be at a place where they can hear you. So, Joyce, I know that's a lot of stuff, but you can do this, and I believe in you. All right, we're gonna be back in a few minutes, and we're gonna learn all about CBD oil. I've got lots of questions for Amy. She's gonna bring us the scoop. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. We are here with Amy. Hey Amy.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
As always.
We usually see each other quite a bit.
We do, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna talk today about...
Oh yeah, CBD oil. But hey, I wanted to ask you something before we started because I get questions as to what does Fletcher exactly do? And with your coaching, which is what you do when you're not on TV.
Yes.
And being the best husband ever. Can you give me like a recent story about, how coaching helped someone and
yes.
So someone could so we could answer that question that I get a lot?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yes. So what we do in the coaching industry is, people they're here in this point in their life, and everybody has an idea where they would like to be in the future, and there's this gap in between. And so what I do is I help people close up that gap, and we help them do it faster than they can possibly do it if they were just working alone, using some cool technology and some methodology. And for instance, I'll give you an example of somebody that I'm working right now. They've got a business, and they've been going along in their business, but there really has not been an upward trend in revenue. And the person's kind of been operating from a place of overwhelm. And so there's a lot of financial struggle, management overwhelm, there's persistent worry, like, how do I pay the bills? How do I get to that next level? Am I gonna survive, or is my business gonna close? And so after working with this individual, what we're able to see is a path to how to actually get to that next level, right? So it's not just a pipe dream. There's actually concrete steps that we can take. And that person now is on track to do about 23% more higher revenue this year in their business for the first time ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And not only that, but the person can operate their business from a place of calm and confidence rather than stress and persistent worry.
And that's priceless.
That is priceless, because when we can operate from a place of freedom, what's available to us is our different actions that weren't available to us previously, right? Because we're operating from a place of fear, anxiety, and when we're operating from there, you only have access to certain actions, and the outcome of those is usually, it doesn't really serve you, it doesn't really move you forward, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know you like working with entrepreneurs and business owners. Why is that? Why do you feel like, what's the relatability there?
Yes, because I've had businesses that, multiple businesses in my life, and some of them have crashed and burned in a big flame, and they didn't survive. And so I totally get how that feels. You got all this passion, you've got excitement, you pour your heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into it, and finances, to kind of watch it burn up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good, right?
That'd be heartbreaking.
And then on the other hand, I've had some businesses that have done quite well, and it feels amazing. And so what I have learned is that there are certain things that you do that are repeatable that equal success. So you don't have to just go out there and be by yourself and try to figure it out and make all these mistakes. I mean, you can, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
Or another way of doing it is to work with somebody who has some foresight and has been through it, but also, so that's why I love it, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting to see entrepreneurs take on their dream and experience success. And but it also, as you know, comes back to mindset. And that was what made the huge difference for me, and continues to make a difference for me in my personal life too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That was a really long answer to my question.
Yep. Well, thanks for asking. You never know what you're going to get.
I never know. Okay,
All
so
right.
that's cool. I don't have, we don't have, anyway. So, I want to talk about CBD oil.
CBD oil.
Which disclaimer, I know very little about, so, but I just know enough to educate us a little bit.
Great. All right. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So first question I have is, I saw CBD juice in the store the other day.
Yeah.
Which was, I hadn't seen that before. So I assume it's legal for anyone to buy?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting, as I was reading about it, so CBD, I'll just take it back for a moment. So it's cannabidiol, and it's the second most prevalent of the active ingredients in cannabis, which is marijuana. But most of the CBD that you see, so for CBD oil, which is what's in like the juices and that kind of thing, it shouldn't have any THC in it, which is the part of marijuana that gets gets people high. So the high is caused by the THC. So CBD is usually, almost always, I would imagine, if it's used in the store like that, it's going to be derived from the hemp plant. So hemp plants don't make marijuana, they don't make THC, they make CBD. And so while the CBD is just one component of marijuana, in itself it doesn't cause any kind of high. So and then I saw a comment by the World Health Organization that in CBD that shows no indication that it can be addictive. And it's a kind of a confusing thing about whether it's legal. So to get back to that, so it depends on whether CBD comes from marijuana or hemp, whether it's legal or not. And the second thing is which state is it in? So in a state where marijuana is legal, I think you see more CBD products than you do in states where it's not legal.
Got it.
But technically it would be legal because it doesn't have any, marijuana, doesn't have any THC in it. And so it's also sold as like a capsule, an extract, an oil. There's all kinds of, there's like CBD in face creams, and people put it on there in lotions. But then what's interesting is because it's not being, because it's it's not being looked at as a drug, and so it's not being really regulated by the FDA at all. So when they did a study on 84 products that said there was just supposed to be CBD, and 18 of those 84 had THC in them. So I think you have to be a little careful, you know, especially if you're someone at work who's getting drug tested, or if you're someone who's using heavy machinery or something. If you were to have a drink or take something, and especially if you weren't 100% sure that it was by a reputable source, that it's possible it has THC.
Right.
But it's not supposed to.
And I imagine even if in those, and I'm making an assumption, but I'm assuming it was just like trace amounts.
Yeah, but like, say you were drug tested, you could lose your job.
True.
You know, depending, because even in the state of Washington, even though marijuana is legal, there are still a lot of jobs that still won't allow you to have marijuana in your system.
Gotcha. Okay. So a friend of ours was using CBD oil and some cream to put on her knee for some joint pain.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah, so that's where I've seen it be used the most. I've had lots of patients who are just randomly using it and getting it in a variety of places. And so there's not really any good data on humans that says that that's effective. There was a study in rats where they used topical CBD, so like a cream, and there was reduced swelling in the joint, pain, and kind of splinting. So it does seem to work in animals. So I guess one could assume that it could work in humans, but this is a really new area, and so there would need to be some study on it for sure.
Yeah. Well, there are certainly plenty of anecdotes out there of people who claim it works.
But as we know, based on our show, The Placebo Effect, it's really amazing when you rub something on your body and you think it's going to work. I mean, there's a good chance it could work.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. So can you explain how it actually works in the body?
Yeah, so just kind of an overview. What's kind of interesting, we've talked about this before. So the way that medications like this work, it's the only way they could work in our body is if we already have receptors for them. So even like the medicines for depression, they increase your serotonin levels. Well, we already make serotonin. We're not taking serotonin. It's actually just stimulating the receptors to make more serotonin and not have it be kind of dissolved as quickly.
So we have to have CBD receptors already.
So we literally do. So your body actually has an endocannabinoid system in our body. And so there are receptors in our body, and there are naturally produced endocannabinoid molecules that are found in our body, in our brain, and different organs, connective tissue, immune system, glands. So there are two main types of receptors, CB1 and CB2. So the majority of the CB1 receptors are located in the brain, and those are the ones that are related to stuff like coordination, mood, thinking, memory, and appetite. And so that's where THC works. So that's where like the feelings people get from using marijuana and therefore getting THC is because they affect the CB1 receptors in our brain. Interesting. So CBD oil works on the CB2 receptors, which are found in your immune system, musculoskeletal system, and your body's response to pain and inflammation. And so it's kind of interesting too. It doesn't exactly bind to the receptors, but it alters them, which in effect stimulates them. It's too complicated to get into how that actually is. But so we actually have endocannabinoids in our body, and we therefore have receptors for them, and then marijuana, THC or CBD works to those receptors. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. And we have to take a quick commercial. All right, we'll be right back. Okay. Stay with us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. We are here with Amy and we're talking about and learning about CBD oil. So you've kind of given us some information already. What's your personal feeling? Do you feel like there's some medical applications for this?
Yeah, I think there definitely could be. I think just like a lot of natural supplements, there's no huge studies on it. And so it's hard to know exactly because of a placebo effect. Yeah. You have to have some studies that take into account for a placebo effect. So I did find a few things, some studies. Well, one for sure, which is what maybe people have seen on the internet. I know this was circulating a few years ago, and it's what I believe prompted Colorado to first legalize marijuana, is because there's just one really terrible type of childhood epilepsy where it just does not respond to medications. And so what they found is that CBD it actually can reduce the number of seizures. So I think maybe before we got great at just isolating CBD, if people just used marijuana, I mean, that was a way to get CBD. Mm-hmm. So there actually is an FDA-approved first ever cannabis-derived medication which contains CBD for these children with this resistant type of epilepsy. So the other study that I found that actually had any kind of data that I could see that looked good was there was just a small, but it was a double-blind study meaning that, that's blinded to the people who were doing the study, and there was a placebo arm. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a very big study, but they looked at people that were put in a stressful situation, and they looked at CBD 300 milligrams, Valium, or this other medication that's kind of an anxiety medication, or a placebo. And what they found was that CBD and this other one, which is kind of like buspirone, did reduce anxiety in people that were exposed to a stressful situation. So I think that it was a small study, but it was helpful.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So, in rats for joints, definitely for childhood epilepsy, and then maybe for anxiety. So it obviously does something. And so I think there just needs to be more looked into it more. And again, like we've talked about before, studies aren't done unless there's a lot of money behind it.
Right.
So like some pharmaceutical company has to get behind it to do a big enough study to really know.
Well, I'm anticipating that there will be huge money behind these studies because it's always on in the news, and there's a big push for this. So I know it's a new frontier. All of this is all relatively new, but do we know other side effects that we should know about?
Yeah, so the most common side effects would be a little bit of nausea, fatigue, or irritability. I think in general it's really well tolerated. It definitely can increase your warfarin levels if you're on warfarin or Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. It works by the same mechanism that grapefruit. So if your medication has a grapefruit warning on it, which a lot of medications do actually, then CBD will do the same thing. Probably if you're using a little bit of it on your skin, it may not do anything, but you should talk to your doctor. And if there's a way to monitor that, then you should do that. And also, because the FDA doesn't regulate what's in the CBD, whatever product you get, you really have to be careful and read the label and get it from some place that's reputable, that has known for more pure ingredients. And then the only other thing that I saw was that CBD could potentially harm the liver. About 10% of people taking CBD, the oral CBD, will have a little bit of elevation in their liver enzymes. And actually a few in some of the studies had to stop the medication because their enzymes were too high. So if you have any liver issues or liver disease, you need to be careful with it, especially with the oral, and you can get blood tests to check for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're considering this, always talk with a physician.
Yeah, my patients definitely tell me that they're using this and they want to make sure that it's okay. I don't have anyone who's using it orally, and in my patients that I know of, they're all using it topically, the ones that do.
Gotcha.
And actually, to be honest, I don't know where they're getting it. I haven't asked. I probably should. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for all that information. Hope it's beneficial to you out there. And now it's time for us to wrap up. It's time to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You have something to contribute to this world, and we believe in you.